Today I'm going to be diving into and discussing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, a timeless comedy movie released in 1987, directed by John Hughes and starring Steve Martin and John Candy. This is a classic must-watch Thanksgiving movie for many people, and I can now see why. This had been on my watch list for a while, and it did not at all disappoint. It was both hilarious and heartwarming. Also, spoiler warning if you haven't seen the movie yet. So, Neil and Dell's character and relationship development throughout the movie was great. I loved how Neil warmed up to Dell over time, and even though they had some arguments, incidents, and difficulties, in the end they ended up good friends. Okay, so this film follows Neil Page, an advertising man from Chicago who tries to travel home from New York to meet his family for Thanksgiving, but is met with difficulties and delays that make his journey much more difficult than it should have been. He tries to get a cab, but someone takes it. He managed to get to the airport, but his flight got delayed, and he meets the person who unknowingly took his cab, Dell Griffith. It's crazy and hilarious how unlucky Neil is throughout this movie. He bribes someone for the cab, which leaves without him, but by some twist of fate, he meets the guy who was in the cab at the airport. So he boards the flight and he ends up sitting next to Dell. It's really funny how Dell was talking about not liking people who talk too much and don't know when to shut up, which is obviously very ironic since he was doing exactly that. And the plane is rerouted to Kansas mid-flight because of a sudden snowstorm in Chicago. He has to share a motel room with Dell and gets really mad at Dell's behavior, such as spilling beer on the bed and leaving the bathroom a mess. This whole scene was very funny. The awkwardness of the two when they realize there's only one bed in the room, and Neil's reaction when he sees the messy bathroom with only one tiny towel left were so good. They try to go to sleep, but Dell keeps making loud noises and Neil can't sleep. Neil finally snaps at Dell, but after a little while they calm down and they go to sleep. It's kind of sweet how Neil had some sympathy for Dell after insulting him, and he probably realized he shouldn't have said that, even though Dell was being annoying. And during the night, they're robbed by a pizza delivery boy that was mad at not getting a bigger tip from Dell when he ordered a pizza earlier. The next day, the flights are still delayed, so they take a train to try to get to Chicago, but unfortunately, it breaks down and it strands everyone in a field. That's honestly really crappy of the train company. You pay them for a train, and then it breaks down, and they're just like, oh well, I guess we need to figure something out to go somewhere. You're in the middle of a field. Too bad. Nowadays, if that happened, the company would get sued and would blow up on social media and everything. But anyways, eventually they take a bus to St. Louis, but they later split up after another argument. Neil attempts to rent a car at the St. Louis airport, but the car he reserved is missing, and he throws a fit and then takes a long and treacherous walk back to the terminal. This was absolutely hilarious. Neil was so incredibly mad, punching and kicking the air like a toddler would. The walk back was also so unfortunate. He must just be super unlucky. I also really love the scene when he gets back to the front of the line at the terminal. He just stares at the girl working there with rage in his eyes as she just ignores him as she's talking on the phone. Finally, when she hangs up, he says the F word like 17 times to her because he was super mad. It's a great scene, honestly. And this is literally the entire reason why the movie got an R rating, which is very funny. Without having all these F-bombs in one scene, it literally would have been a lower rating, but honestly, this scene was well worth having. He then tries to get a taxi to Chicago, but he insults the dispatcher and he gets punched in the face, and he falls just as Dell drives by in his rental car and stops right before hitting him. What a crazy coincidence, they somehow meet again. Then, a little bit later, Dell nearly gets them both killed when he drives the wrong way in the freeway, like an idiot, honestly, but they barely survive and the car gets beat up really badly. This scene was somehow terrifying and hilarious. The people in the car screaming at them to turn around, but then they're just making fun of those people. Oh, they're probably just drunk, they don't know what they're talking about, and then they realize, oh crap, we are actually going the wrong way. Also, Dell accidentally threw a cigarette in the back, which later catches the car on fire, and they nearly crashed into the big trucks, and then I think that caused the fire and made it in even worse shape, but still the car somehow worked. I don't even know how, honestly. Like, how can these people have such horrible luck? It's crazy. They then go to another motel room, and they laugh about the events that have happened to them. The next morning, Dell accidentally reversed the car into the motel, destroying a bunch of things in the building. That was really unexpected and hilarious. And then as they are driving to Chicago, they get pulled over by a cop because they were going way too fast, and they didn't know that because the speedometer was melted, so Dell just didn't know how fast he was going. The cop understandably says, the car's not safe to drive on the road. I mean, yeah, it's like barely held together at this point. Dale then has to persuade a trucker to let them travel in the back of the truck's trailer. Not exactly a leisurely trip, sitting in the back of a truck freezing, but I guess they had no other options. Finally, they got back to a station in Chicago and they parted ways once again. As Neil is on the way home, he thinks about the memories he made with Dell and some of the comments Dell made, and he realizes, oh, Dell probably doesn't have a home at all. He goes all the way back to the station and finds Dell still there, who explains how his wife died 8 years ago and now he's homeless. And Neil invites him home to his house for Thanksgiving dinner and introduces Dell to his family. This last part of the movie was super good and really made me confident in calling this movie great. It was so sweet that Neil went back, and I'm glad that they both got a happy ending. I love how Neil really grew to appreciate Dell after all the experiences and hardships they spent together trying to get home. Like, it would be just such a shame for them to part forever. Neil and Dell, in a way, are like complete opposites, but that's also what makes them such a good duo and why their friendship is so great. Music. There's some pretty good music in this film. Nothing stood out that much, but it was good overall. The song Mess Around was pretty good, with Dell miming along to it while driving, which he really shouldn't have done, but it was pretty funny, but also stressful to watch. Like, how did he not crash? I don't know. Also, Every Time You Go Away is a pretty good song, which fits quite well for the final scene, and I like the Red River Rock cover at the end. There's some other songs as well, but that was mainly what stood out to me. Themes. So I think the main themes of this movie are definitely forgiveness and thankfulness. So not only does the plot center around getting home for Thanksgiving, the main themes also mirror the whole idea of Thanksgiving itself. Another theme here is empathy, understanding how other people feel and not judging others for their differences. Really, there's a lot of lessons you can take away from this film, and that's just part of what makes it great. It's really funny, and it also has some really valuable and relevant themes and genuine emotion and character development. This is probably the best Thanksgiving movie out there from the ones I've seen. So, would I recommend it? Oh yeah, I would definitely recommend this to most people, really. Especially anyone who likes comedies should definitely watch this. It's especially a great movie to watch around Thanksgiving time, and even though it's rated R, you could probably show it to your family, because it's just swearing, and that's like the only reason it's rated R, so as long as they're not little kids and they can handle some swearing, it's fine. It's not even inappropriate. Like, again, it's so funny that the only reason it's rated R because they made one scene with 18 F-bombs in it. But yeah, really, I should have watched it sooner. Honestly, anyone who's looking for a movie to get into the mood for Thanksgiving should watch this. So, yeah, my final score for this movie is 8 out of 10. Great movie for sure. It's a really nice mix of hilarious jokes, funny moments, and heartfelt emotions and genuine character development that makes it easy to see why this movie is known as timeless and a classic to so many people. Thanks for watching. What's your opinion on this movie? Is it as good as me and everyone else says it is, or is it overrated? Let me know in the comments below. Goodbye, and see you in the next video.